I've been told in my profession it's quite rude, and when talking to children, you should always go to their level.
No.
So this is unique, for sure. But not my first time talking in front of a group, so I hope this goes all right.
And God raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of His hand. And God will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of His hand. Now we get to take a little talk with Jesus. Have a little talk with Jesus. I once was lost in sin, but Jesus took me in, and then with life from heaven filled my soul. It made my heart in love and wrote my name above, and just a little talk with Jesus made me whole. Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. Let us tell Him about our troubles. He will hear our faintest cry, and He will answer by and by. Now when you feel your prayer will turning, and you know the fire is burning, you will find a little talk with Jesus makes it right. It makes it right. I may have doubts and fears, my eyes can filled with tears, but Jesus is a friend who watches day and night. I go to Him in prayer, He knows my every care, and just a little talk with Jesus makes it right. Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. Tell Him all about our troubles. He will hear our anxious cry, and He will answer by and by. Now when you feel the river turning, and you know the fire is burning, you will find the talk with Jesus makes it right. It makes it right. And our last one, Jesus' name above all names. Jesus, name above all names, beautiful Savior, glorious Lord, God is with us, blessed Redeemer, living Word. Jesus, name above all names, beautiful Savior, glorious Lord, Emmanuel, God is with us, blessed Redeemer, living Word. Thank you all, that was great.
Lord, all the earth.
Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into His presence with singing.
We are His people and the sheep of His pasture.
Give thanks to Him. Bless His name.
For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever.
And His faithfulness to all
page 98 for To God Be the Glory. You may be seated. Do you want to give yes to the one child? Please come forward. Here.
We've got two here. And two are gathered in his name. Come on. How are you? Oh, good to see you. Good. Good job. Where's Grandpa going to sit? I love seeing that. Grandpa.
I love it.
Probably did.
Good.
Okay.
What coach
Well,
is
we're
it?
going to talk about being happy today. Are you happy? Yeah. Are you happy? Oh, look at that smile. She's very happy. Do you know what one of my favorite songs is? If you're happy and you know it, why you clap your hands? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Very good. Well, we like to show God that we're happy, don't we? And singing is a good way to do that. And then have you ever had a chance to pray to God, Kinley? Do you ever
Do you
say a
pray?
prayer?
Do you pray?
Do you pray?
What do you
Like
do when we
before you
pray?
eat?
What do we do?
What do you do with your hands when you're praying? All right, well, good. Yes, you can do that. But you know, I like to do other things with my hands too. I like to go like this. Can you do that? Yeah. Oh, you're looking up at God. Say, hi, God. Hi, God. Say, I'm so happy today. There are so many things that we can be happy for. And so when we ever feel very, very happy, that's a good time to say thank you to God, isn't it? Yes, because God is always with us. All right, well, I want each of you to have something to make you happy. And this is something that the ladies up at the healthcare made. Can you tell what that is? I hope. Can you tell what that is? Grandpa? It's a duck, isn't it? Yes, all right. Well, that's something that will make you happy too. So sometime you might say, thank you, God, for the nice ladies that made that duck for me. Okay, we'll say a quick prayer. Dear God, thank you for letting me be so happy. Yeah, for being so happy. And I love Jesus. You say, I love Jesus? Yeah. Amen. And we're going to go amen like that. We're happy. Amen. Okay. Good job. Okay.
All right, sharing joys and concerns. And what?
Joy to have Kathy back.
Yes.
Hey, very true.
Joy to have you here. And your
Oh,
family.
thanks.
Joy to get Nathan married yesterday.
Yes.
Right.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I really should have just sent the invitation to you on Facebook. No, I put it out there for people, but there's a couple people that said they'd be here.
It's made of paper.
Mona Myers is home from the hospital. So that's a joy. She'll have to have some home health for a while, but at least she's home.
Mona.
Ducks are yellow, right? Sometimes they can be different colors.
Concerns?
Well, the shooting in Texas and the hurricane.
But it's 27 total, 21 injuries. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's right. A little bit.
We lost our nephew Byron this week. Byron Anson had a liver transplant. 4 years ago, he passed away. And his funeral
At his
was
home.
at his
Yes, he
home.
made it home.
Made it
And
home.
he spent the last 8 to 10 weeks in a hospital at one point or another. And I think when he finally made it home after he spent 6 weeks in Hawaii in the hospital, he broke his fell with his ankle and hurt his other leg as well. Then his pneumonia then picked up and put him in the ICU for a little while. And so as soon as he got home, one more day, and his will left him. So, anybody else?
Chris Watkins, I don't know if you ever remember Paula, Levita and Milton's, their grandson, he has leukemia. He is going through treatment right now, I think in Kansas somewhere. We're not sure what she just said, but it was important.
Right. Wait, she's talking to Barney. All right. Let's bow our heads. Oh Lord, may you give strength to those who have recently come home from sickness and health. And may you comfort those who need your assistance and care. And lift them up as they come through these troubled times. And may we remember, as our Father who taught us to pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, glory forever. Amen. Please turn to page 347 for the Spirit song. We read today, actually, you can cross out Romans, but we talk about 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 through 26. And to set the stage for where this scripture is coming from, Paul is having a talk with the Corinthians about the importance. A lot of factions had developed within the church, and he was explaining to them how they needed to be thinking about the church and how each person's part within the church should go, and he compares it to the human body. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of the Spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor. And our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not acquire. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, and there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care of one another. And that brings us to community. The part of the community which I represent today in talking is going to be the police officers. And that comes from several things. When I was in college, we learned about a gentleman who was a former British Prime Minister, and he is regarded as the father of policing. And he says that the police are the public, and the public are the police, and the police, being only members of the public, were paid to give full-time attention to the duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interest of the community's welfare and existence. He was the founder of Scotland Yard, so that policing as we know it was set forth from that day on to be organized, to have detectives. So in talking about 1 Corinthians, we're reminded that they are a member of the community, and I started to see within my own department and other departments a division that's definitely occurring. How they're presented within the news, how they even within their own department, I think that the police officers themselves find themselves in the middle of a war that they're not really sure that they really want to fight anymore. Because you got policy and procedure on one side that says we'd really like to keep you safe, and then on the other side you have the public that says we don't want your help at all. So one of the reason why I'm here is I needed to identify, with as much struggles as I've had in the last few years, I had to really define my own community, and did I have enough support? And with each group, like I have here, I have my own church in, we go to Broomfield United Methodist. I have my friends and colleagues at work. I have my brothers in Lodge. Without all that support system that I've put in place, I could have easily been in a bad place with any one of the things that are occurring right now historically. And I felt it was important to remind, I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but to remind the public, and you don't want to go on the news and talk about these things, it should be done in person. Because we're talking about reestablishing the community in which they work for. Once upon a time, you would see, I'm sure Mr. Goff would just stop right into any church and sit down and could listen to a sermon, and now we view that as that's not part of your job. But it is part of his job. He needs to see that, well, number one, it's nice to see who's all here, and who's struggling, who's, it's a great test to the community. Who's missing? Who in the church is not here today? Maybe he needs to go do a welfare check. Like, we didn't used to have phones. We didn't have all this fancy technology. We were a community. We talked. I would talk to this person, you knew this person, and you knew this person. Even our original telephones, I picked up the phone a lot as a kid to try to call my mom or grandma, and there's 3 or 4 other ladies talking, and you'd be like, I really need to get hold of someone in town and let them know that we're not going to come home tonight because something on the truck broke, or the combine's down, or, and everybody knew your business. Oh, well, and we all had, you didn't have a hardware store and stuff, and a lot of the stuff, especially car parts and things, we just pulled off other old cars. And because of technology, we've gotten so far away, a person can just sit in their home and enjoy an entire day and think they've traveled the world because they saw what's going on over here in Brazil. read about what's going on in Europe with Brexit. You know, but at the same time, we're not coming together as a community because, you know, everybody's about numbers and production and performance. And then we're forgetting about mental health. You know, community is a part of that. And if we're all part of that body and we all have a facet to step into, whether it be the skin or tendons or, you know, whatever small, tiny cellular part that we have, I mean, we could all break it down. We're all different cells, right, within the United States or within the world, is a better view. And so we all make up. Our little community is a farming community, so we have probably something to do with the stomach, you know, definitely teeth, you know, you gotta chew your food, you gotta take care of that stuff. And so that's kind of where the community portion comes from. And through this process, like I've stood up now at 2 other different churches, not to give the whole sermon. This is the first to get to do the whole thing. I kind of originated my idea to stand up and talk because police officers have been taking their own lives in record number this year. Not necessarily in my department. We have had two deaths of officers in the state of Colorado, and we've had five or seven, depending on how you want to count the emergency personnel. You're almost 3 times as likely to die from suicide as you are in the line of duty, and that's not right. And I felt a movement. I needed to stand up and tell people. I needed to stand up and talk to the community and be like, what are we doing wrong? I've always known as a police officer, you see suicide regularly. Sadly, most of that time I worked in Vail. It was among friends. You know, in the city, there's a little bit of more disconnect for sure. Like I was talking with a group of people yesterday. When's the last time someone in Baca County froze to death? Was it last year? Well, in the city, it happens. One or two people are lost every year, and that's probably before that there was nobody for 20 some years. I can't remember the last time I heard of somebody freeze to death. When's the last, or even starved to death, or, you know, we don't do that here. Just this morning at Two Buttes, we talked about a gentleman in town didn't have any money to pay for his utilities. So he would go to the church and go in the basement, cook his meals, and sleep there every night. No one said a word, and only a couple people in town even knew. He was really good. He cleaned up after himself. But that's the beauty of living in a small community. Like, we can all come here together, and this is a shelter for for the highway, actually. Just in this building, we have a kitchen, we always had food. Me and Mark would raid the freezer for cookies for my entire high school career, except during wrestling season, of course. So it's just become a very apparent and aware that, like I said, I've been struggling with my own loss of friends and family, and if I didn't have you guys, where would I be? Where would I? And police officers, you know, now they have to work. Now I can't go to church, you know, while I'm working. So the only reason before this, I've been a cop now for 16 years. And the only reason I really missed church was because I was at work. I was working some snowstorm, and not that my faith ever, especially once I got to work, I never had to worry. My doubts and stuff, and I'll explain at the end of my sermon, where we're covered. God would do something through work and through me that let me know that this is where I need to be. This is where I'm meant to be. And lately, I don't necessarily feel like that. Not that I have anything against work, but it's definitely taken its toll. And in doing all of these talks, I've read some really amazing things. And one of the things I'm going to read to you now is from a Dr. Brene Brown. And that she's a researcher and a storyteller and a Texan. She works at the University of Houston, and she studies vulnerability, shame, courage, and empathy. And she talks about spirituality is recognized and celebrating that we are all intrinsically connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that there are connections to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. And so in talking about the police officers and their struggles, I think that is a litmus test to our community, because like I said, we've been surrounded by suicide all of our lives in one form or another, and if we're dependent on what I would consider some of the strongest men and women in our community that have been put forward to protect us, and they're the ones now failing, then there's definitely a problem. Dr. Brown has another quote that's very fitting. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need to all people. We are biological, cognitively, physically, spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we are meant to be. We break, we fall, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, and we get sick. So, it's much easier to do this in front of people you don't know. So one of the things I think, nobody likes it when someone butts into their business, I guess you would say. And as a police officer, you always have to. So someone thinks you need to be called, and anymore, I think most people are scared. Every shooting we have in every city becomes more and more real, and the closer those cities become, and the more often they occur, everybody's is afraid, and so we're probably calling for police officers on a more frequent basis than we ever had before, because no one feels that they have the tools to step up to somebody in a parking lot and say, "Hey, what you're doing is wrong, and I don't like the way you're talking to your wife. I don't like the things that you're doing within this community. You're being destructive, and it's hard enough to live without somebody adding to the pile of stuff that we all have to face." My wife has seen me on more than one occasion give somebody a lecture in the middle of a parking lot. Sadly, because I feel it's important to be in and out of the. We grew up in a place where even if I wasn't wearing a uniform, and I don't ever have to wear a uniform here, because you all know where I work, and that he has the power and the duty and all of the things that he can go do that. In the city, it's not that way. You're pretty autonomous. You can work by yourself, which was a real eye-opener for me, coming from always being surrounded by people and working, and then being stuck in a car for 10 hours a day, and not really necessarily having people to talk to. People are like, "Well, you pull people over all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not really a conversation. It's more of a rehearsal." I had a little speech and say, "Hey, here's your ticket. Press hard, and then go back to my car." That's yes. We do have some fun. Not as much anymore. Computers have really worn me out. Anyway, I think it's important. I'll finish on a positive note in something. One of the ways that God stepped in and let me know that I was doing what I was supposed to. So this happened a lot in Eagle County. People got really frustrated with the city. So they would just get in their car and drive away. 2 instances I had in cars, and I really do. One of them was how I found the gentleman. He had actually been drinking from the time he left Denver all the way to Eagle County. And I ended up, you know, having to take him to custody. But there was, I probably had to talk to him for 30, 45 minutes. And I'm a crisis intervention team member. So I've been given special training to talk to people that want to take their life, or because there's things you shouldn't say. Like my sister, she always reminds me about how when you tell somebody to calm down, does that work? No. Of course, the first thing you learn in this class is you don't ever tell somebody to calm down. And it's really hard. You should try it. You know, like, how about we just take deep breaths? Like, look at me, eye contact. All right. Because, yeah, you're saying, please calm down, is, especially a police officer will learn within the first year that that's not a good statement to be using. It definitely doesn't diffuse any of the tension in the situation. So, you know, I had to take the one individual into custody, but there was a part of me that felt kind of bad because all of a sudden, he's already in a troubled state, right? He's been drinking, he's made all these bad decisions, and then what do? I arrest him, put him in jail, like when someone's up here. I've just added to all of his stress, right? I've added everything, piled on a little bit more. You know, and that's probably not the best thing, you know, unless we actually set somebody with him to then follow through and go through all the paperwork. And we do. We have public defenders. You can sit down and be like, I can't afford, so here's the person that represents you. That's part of that process. But anyway, one very special instance. This lady, and some of you probably have watched it. Did everybody watch my video? No. Oh, good. See? I'll just keep telling this. I can switch it to another one. But this particular lady was really stressed out, and so she drove up to Eagle County, and she thought she was turning onto a dirt road, and it turns out it was a truck ramp. And truck ramps are really, really cool feats of engineering because they really do work. You're talking about 80,000 pounds traveling down 7% grade at anywhere from 100 to 120 miles an hour, I think. And for a short distance of road that's also graded in its own way, and all of these different levels of aggregate, which is just a fancy word for pebbles and rocks. You know, and they're layers, and then the truck just gets buried. Eventually, all of that kind of sinks in. It's like a big sand pit. Well, so she pulls in there, and she gets stuck, and then now she's frustrated and stuck and lost. And so she just starts walking towards the light, finds a house. If somebody's got a porch light on, she knocks. They let her in, they feed her, they take care of her, they give her a place to sleep. They can see that she's not in a good place. Well, of course, next day, and her car, of course, is towed. Excuse me. You can't leave the truck ramp blocked because then the trucks can't use it. Or if they did, it would be a much bigger mess. So that's taken away to a tow yard place, and it's in the middle of the night, and so that's kind of expensive in and of itself. And the next day, I'm at work, and I'm making friends, and I get a phone call that says, hey, this lady's lost her car, and the last people to contact her car was you guys, so you probably know where it's at. So I go and I pick her up, and boy, she is a mess. She's crying and just lost, and I know immediately that she's not going to be able to afford the tow bill, and the best thing for her is just to go back home. She's, you know, that's where she feels safe, and that's where she needs to be. And at the time, this is before I started using ATMs, just happened to have a stash of cash at my house, you know, for emergencies. Somebody was paying me rent in cash, and so I just kept putting it in a coffee can in the back somewhere. And so I stopped by my house, I grabbed what I thought should be enough, and drove to the tow yard. And we get there, my favorite tow truck driver's there. His name's Big Steve. He's used to be the mayor of Gypsy. Very, very cool guy. Always would give you the shirt off his back. Did a whole bunch of stuff. Probably just as much as Dr. Marwa and some of the people here in our community. He gave all of our patrol cars, he gave CB radios too 1 year, just to make our jobs a little easier. Anyway, I get there and it's him, and I was like, Steve, she's not gonna be able to afford this. I said, what's it gonna cost? And he's like, no, you don't have to pay. I was like, come on, Steve. I got the money right here. It's not gonna hurt me any. It's just, can't take your money. So that Christmas, his favorite thing was cigars. So he got 2 or 3 really nice cigars. Just as a show of thanks for this situation. And so we give her back her car, and she just immediately starts crying, just bawling, and she says, I went away empty, and I get to go home full. And within that group, just the 3 of us, we were all a supportive community. That's all it takes, is just 2 people looking out for, we're taught from Sunday school on up to follow in Jesus' footsteps, and that's a perfect example of how Jesus would have handled that situation. And so and I know hundreds of officers. I've worked with almost probably at least half of the state agencies across the country, and I worked with Secret Service. Every one of those individuals probably has some story where they, from time to time, randomly, I would just pick up hitchhikers and then just talk to them and find out where they're going. I saw a guy, I felt really bad for him. He's riding his Harley in a snowstorm. There's got to be like 6 inches of snow on the ground. And you're like, what are you doing? And his brother had died. And that was his only mode of transportation, get from California back east. And so, what do you, if that's my only, that's my only mode of transportation, I would hop on my bike, and I might have tried to buy a bus ticket, but I'm sure that was too late. They don't move that fast. And we don't have a great train system anymore, so. Anyway, that's my good news from the world of police officers. Now, what do we get to do? Sing. Turn to 469 and we'll talk about Jesus is all the world to me. Would you like to stand or stay seated?
Thank you.
Good Lord, may this find its way through you and to you, back to the ones in need